both sides of the conversation, family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm both sides of the conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we are about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we are caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Welcome everybody to both sides of the conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director. Today is Tuesday, so you know what that means. We're going to have another Hidden Gem segment where we continue to highlight our black and brown businesses, as well as our community leaders and organizations that are doing positive things to impact our community. Today, I'm excited for our Hidden Gem tonight. Tonight, we have one special Hidden Gem. This testimony, this story you all are going to hear is going to be something very, very powerful for the community. So looking forward to that. With that being said, first, I want to say thank you to all of the community folks, all of my both sides of the conversation team, family, SF Blackwell, all of the number of community folks who've been reaching out to me. Today has been an emotional day. As you all know, today was my mom's birthday. 5 months ago, I lost my mom, and it is still a process. Today's been up and down. But I'm here today and, just feel good to be with community. But just want to say thank you to all the community support and love. I mean, I've received so many phone calls, emails, texts, and just love. So just appreciate everybody. Thanks for keeping me and my family in your prayers. And thank you all for just sending that love and just helping keep me uplifted, as today has been one of those days. And then tomorrow we'll be honoring my cousin, who you all know passed the next day after my mom's birthday. So it's been a lot. This is a rough time for me. And, we're just getting excited to just keep moving forward, though. But thank you all for keeping me in your prayers and your spirit. With that being said, we want to go through a couple of announcements today, some of the things that's going on here at both sides of the conversation, and we'll get into tonight's Hidden Gem. Since it is Black History Month, on this day, we want to recognize some of our historian folks throughout this month. On this day, February 8, 1986, Oprah Winfrey was one of the first African-American women who hosted a national syndicated talk show. She is a philanthropist. Oprah Gail Winfrey has been doing amazing work in our community. She was born January 29th, 1954 in Costco, Mississippi. She was named after a biblical figure in the book of Ruth, Oprah, but she changed her name to Oprah when she pronounced her name. She's been through a lot in her life, but we just want to acknowledge her for all the work and things that she has done on this Black History Month. Going to some of the community news, as you all know, we've been talking about the number of violence incidents and things that have been taking place across this Bay Area. In San Francisco, there was 3 separate shootings that took place over the last couple of days. We had 4 people injured. This violence in our community continues to happen. There has been a number of overdoses that have also happened in our community. There's been a number of suicides, and we have some young folks who have been impacted by all what's going on. So there's a lot going on, community. We still have a lot of work to do, and we just got to keep grinding together. But some of those incidents that took place when the 4 people were injured in these separate shootings. None of them was life threatening, according to the San Francisco Police Department. One incident took place on February 3rd in South of Market area. A 40-year-old man was shot when he was trying to stop two men from breaking into his car. Police responded to the 200 block of 9th Street, where they found the man with gunshot wounds. There were some more shootings on Saturday, February 5th, in broad daylight, where two vehicles exchanged gunfire on Castro at the intersection of Market and Douglas Street. And there was just a number of other shootings that have taken place. Also, one of the Cal legends were shot on what we think may be a road rage incident that took place on Interstate 880. So again, gun violence is happening. Things are happening in our community. We have a lot to work to do when we talk about violence in our community. We have to figure out a way to deal with these mental health issues and some of the issues that we are dealing with in our community. And we're going to continue to do our part to help support those efforts and unify our communities. Also, in San Francisco, there's been some graffiti flash mobs that's been taking place. There's been about 100 incidents throughout the mission on Friday night. They think that these might be isolated incidents, but there are a number of tagging that's going on. People are overspraying murals and different things of that nature. And there, a couple of organizations have reported it. So, we just got to be vigilant in our community. For the young folks, we got to find ways that they can express themselves with art and not, causing damage to our community. So a lot of work to do. Definitely want to reach out to the Latino Task Force and some of the other organizations down there and find how we can have some kind of art night or maybe set up something so that these young folks or these folks who are doing these type of things can have a way to express their art without damaging property or, damaging any of the murals that are up throughout our community. With that being said, we're going to jump into our community announcements as we get close to the end of the week. We're going to start off with the East Oakland Collective and the Both Sides of the Conversation, a number of other community partners. The Feed the Hood food drive and distribution is going to be happening this Saturday, February the 9th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's going to be at 7800 MacArthur Boulevard. Still looking for a few volunteers to come support. There'll be about 2,000 meals that we're going to be providing to our unhoused folks. Hygiene kits and a number of other items that our folks who are unhoused can use. If you like to donate or do anything, please go to the East Oakland Collective website and you can sign up there or reach out to them for more information. Also, the East Oakland Collective is back open. Today was their first food distribution for the community. They're going to continue to pump out their daily events. So if you would like to know more, if you would like to sign up and get some support for your community, I see it on the news as well. There are a number of food distribution organizations that are helping families in our community. As right now with the inflation and the cost and the crisis that's going on, folks are needing that extra support. And there are a number of organizations who are helping those families with food, and East Oakland Collective is one of those organizations as well. Please go to their website if you or your family or you know someone who needs that type of support to get food boxes or food groceries and hot meals. So we appreciate the work that they're doing for our community as well. Also, our Both Sides of the Conversation and East Oakland Collective are presenting our Both Sides of the Conversation Family Bowling Day, which is happening February 19th. From 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Seabowl in Pacifica. Please, community, go and register. I just got some numbers. We are getting close to that full capacity, but there is still some room. This is a registered event. This is free to everybody in the community. But again, we are getting close to that maximum capacity as folks are registering for this event. But please use that Evite Brent link and sign up for that event. We are excited. We cannot wait. It's going to be a great event to see all of our family and friends and our young folks and community organizations coming out to have a day of bowling and just enjoying each other. Also, the African American Culture District, Both Sides of the Conversation, SF Black Wall Street, is having a Valentine's Spiritual Conversation Paint Night. is happening this Saturday as well at 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at 1315 Fillmore Street in San Francisco. This is going to be a great event. Folks are going to be out painting and having a good time. And we're also going to have a conversation about relationships, love, since it is the weekend before Valentine's Day. And these conversations get a little heated. So we'll see how it goes. But we'll be out there. We'll help facilitate this conversation. We'll be live. If you can't make it to the event, you can watch live on SF Black Wall Street Facebook page as well. We'll be streaming live on our Both Sides of the Conversations YouTube channel. Also, the SF Black Wall Street and African American culture is doing the Black Family Photo Day, which is happening Saturday, February 27th at 1 p.m. at the Mildred Hire Frame in the shipyards back there in D10. It's 101 Horn Ave. If you would like to come out and be a part of this Family Day photo, this would be great. We're looking for all community folks to come out and take a picture. Also, Black History Day is happening with the African American culture. They are doing the 3rd Street Hombre Party, which will be right after the Black Family Photo Day. That'll be held at Gerald Street at Big H lot immediately after the pictures. So that'll be cool to support Big H and his barbecue joint. And it'll be nice to see community out there. There's a number of other events that will be going on. The All My is doing their participation Black History event that was happening also on the 19th. We have a number of Black Man Enhancers doing an event at Gilman Playground. There's a number of history events and events that's going to be taking place, and we will be getting that information out to community as more information comes down the pipeline. Also, Both Sides of the Conversation, if you like to support us, our Smile Amazon is still up. You can support us, choose Both Sides of the Conversation as one of your charitable organizations, no extra cost to you, but every time you purchase something on Amazon, we'll be getting supported through Amazon. So we are appreciating the folks who have been signing up. We have been seeing some folks who reached out, and we appreciate you all for continuing to support the work that we do here at Both Sides of the Conversation. Also, our Giving Tuesday pledge is still happening. It's going through February 22nd, through the end of the month, and you can still give and support for our Giving Tuesday pledge. And thank you to all the folks who've been supporting that as well. Upcoming, our Educational Thursday. This Thursday, we will be having the San Francisco Election Department. They'll be coming on. We'll have Eva Pena coming back on to talk about the special election. Very, very important information for community. So that'll be a great Educational Thursday presentation. We had Dante King, who was supposed to be up, but we had to remove him to get this special election information out to community, but we'll have him back in the following week, and that'll give you all time to check out his book. As you all know, the 400-year Holocaust have dropped. His book is out, and he'll be on to talk about that and a number of other events that he has going on as well. So we are excited for all of those announcements and things that is going on. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into tonight's Hidden Gem. Enough of me. I have said enough. Community, thank you for the continued support, but we will be out there. But with that being said, we're going to introduce tonight's Hidden Gem, Shelly Winter. Phenomenal story. I want to introduce her. Welcome to Both Sides of the Conversation, Shelly.
Hi, thanks for having me. Excited to be here today. It's crazy how powerful stories are, and stories have the power to change the world. And so anytime that I'm given this opportunity to share my story with others, I always jump on it because for me, I want to help others. I want to empower others. And if there's just one person whose prison I can unlock because they heard my story and I can help them achieve more in their life, then it was all worth it in the end. So, but I'm here today to talk about my journey. My name is Shelly Winter, and I am formerly incarcerated. I went to prison on a drug charge. I struggled with drugs, I'd say, most of my adult life. I was addicted to meth, heroin, and prescription pills. And I eventually started selling drugs to support my habit. And I was arrested by the federal government because I was bringing drugs across state lines. And right after my arrest, I found out that I was pregnant. And so this was a huge, huge turning point for me. Not only just being arrested by the feds, but, then finding out I'm pregnant. I just knew at that point that I needed to change my ways, because there was no way that I could be the same type of parent to my son that my parents were to me. Unfortunately, I grew up in a home where my mother was absent. My father was in and out of prison for drugs and alcohol. He ended up getting me drunk for the first time at the age of 11. And so this was really my influences as a child, growing up in this environment. So naturally, 76% of children follow in their parents' footsteps. So like my father, I ended up being an addict, a drug dealer, and going to prison. But what's amazing is that anybody can change as long as you want to. And everybody has a different perception of what rock bottom is. But for me, going to prison and then finding out I was pregnant and looking at a 10-year sentence was rock bottom for me. And I knew that it was time to change. And, when you hit rock bottom, there's no other way to go but up. So I'm going to play a clip. PBS did a story about me. So I'm not going to go too much into that, because I'm going to show the clip. But we'll dive a little bit deeper after I play the story. I play the show. So when I got out of prison, I knew that I wanted a career, not just some job, not just some dead-end job. Like, I wanted a job with a living wage, and I wanted to work in tech. So I was able to get out of prison and find employment with one of the biggest tech companies in the world. So I'm going to go ahead and PBS did a story on this. I'm going to go ahead and share the story with you right now. All right.
Okay, it's up.
All right.
More than 70 million Americans have some sort of criminal or arrest record. And for many, that can prevent them from passing a background check and getting a job. Amna Nawaz is back now to profile one woman's fight to overcome her past and to prove herself at one of the biggest tech companies in the world. It's part of our Searching for Justice series, looking at the challenges after incarceration.
From days spent working from home in sales for Microsoft,
Come on, Bella. Let's go.
to evening strolls with her husband and dog,
I had a lot of meetings, like back to back.
Shelley Winner's life here in California's Bay Area today is one she could have never imagined just a few years ago.
If someone would have told me when I was sitting back in my prison cell 5-6 years ago that one day I'd be working at Microsoft, I would have laughed in their face.
Her path to that prison cell, she says, began early. Winner grew up in Sacramento. Her mother, she says, was often absent. Her stepfather was in and out of prison.
He told me the rule of the house was if I wanted to do any hard drugs, that I had to bring them home and share them with him. And he was using and selling meth out of our home. I didn't know what a hangover was, but looking back now, I was definitely hungover at 11 years old.
As a teen, she began using crystal meth. In her 20s, her addiction eventually eclipsed everything else.
I couldn't keep a regular job working 8 hours. Drugs was more important to me. Lived that life for well over a decade, started selling drugs, and eventually got caught by the federal government. And right after my arrest, that's when I found out I was pregnant.
Pregnant, fighting addiction, and facing a 10-year sentence, Winner decided to change. She entered rehab, got clean, and 2 months after giving birth to her son, reported to prison. She served 1.5 years of a 4-year sentence and says that time was transformational, thanks to a number of programs available inside. When she got out in 2016, she was ready for a new life and knew exactly what she wanted to do.
You know, what's funny is when I was running and gunning, my favorite thing to do when I got high was build and fix computers.
Just a few months free, staying in a halfway house, she landed an interview for a retail position in a Microsoft store.
Here I was fresh out of prison, and now I'm interviewing with one of the biggest tech companies in the world. And I knew if I could get my foot in the door at this company that my life would drastically change.
So do you get the job after the interview?
She hired me right on the spot.
Winner knew her record would show up in a background check, so she decided to be upfront and lay her cards on the table.
All of those certificates of rehabilitative classes that I took in prison, I had all of them. And so I scanned them all to my cloud drive and I attached them to that letter and I sent it off because I wanted them to see that I wasn't lying. Unfortunately, they came back and said, we are not going to move forward with your hire.
So to go from that to having that offer taken away,
Yeah,
what did that feel like?
it was devastating. I felt like I was forever going to be punished for my criminal record for the rest of my life, that I was going to be wearing these invisible handcuffs for the rest of my life. And although I had paid my debt to society, it wasn't enough.
Shelley Winner had just run into the same barrier as millions of other formerly incarcerated people. But because this job was in San Francisco, Shelley had access to something most don't, a law that gave her the legal grounds to fight for that job.
In 2014, San Francisco's mayor signed the Fair Chance Ordinance, requiring employers to consider mitigating circumstances and evidence of rehabilitation for any job applicant with a criminal record. It also requires employers to prove that criminal record is relevant to the job before turning down the applicant. On those grounds, Winner challenged Microsoft's denial in 2017. She was invited to re-interview and this time got the job.
I was so excited. All of that devastation and that hurt and that sadness gone. I mean, I was just ecstatic. And I remember the recruiter, she says, wow, you know, I've never had a response like this before. I said, girl, I have gone through it.
So if this law wasn't on the books and Shelley hadn't called you, what would have been her recourse?
She wouldn't have had any direct recourse.
Patrick Mulligan leads San Francisco's Office of Labor Standards Enforcement, which implements that Fair Chance Ordinance.
There's 70 million Americans, adult Americans, that have some sort of arrest or conviction history. The employment is regarded as probably the number one issue regarding recidivism in this country. So I think issues that affect a third of the adult population, I think, are important for everybody.
Across the country, 37 states and more than 150 cities and counties have banned the box rules that prevent public sector employers from asking about incarceration on a job application. But only 15 states and 22 localities require the same for private employers. And even fewer states, cities, and counties include laws for private employers that are as strong as San Francisco's.
There will be people who say, shouldn't employers be allowed to say who gets to work for their companies and who doesn't?
They do. But there are some restrictions on that. We already have laws in place around racial bias, discriminatory practices, and this really just falls among those.
So the systems are there to help vet and qualify candidates quickly and get you the right people, which is the right thing to do. The challenge is the system looking for people that can help your company change?
Jason Ford is a Microsoft executive who met Winner while she worked in the retail job.
What if you were only known for the worst thing that you have ever done?
He saw a TEDx
And
presentation
how would
she
that
gave in
make you feel?
2019, advocating for other
Those
formerly
handcuffs
incarcerated people, and says he was immediately impressed.
And the reason that I know this is because the worst thing that I'd ever done landed me in prison.
Ford wanted to promote her from retail to his corporate team. This time, when her background check raised concerns, Ford pushed back.
We are really focused on trying to be very thoughtful and inclusive. Sometimes you have to push the systems to catch up to it, but sometimes the systems don't know that these communities are areas that we can tap into for talent. And so it just takes, I think, a forceful perspective for people to lean in.
And that includes formerly incarcerated people.
Formerly incarcerated people are a huge population. they have to be contributing members of society. So maybe not all of them are going to be capable of doing some of the things that we're asking, or maybe not all of them bring the diversity that we would need, but there's no way that none of them do.
Earlier this year, Microsoft joined the Second Chance Business Coalition, a group of major corporations pledging to expand hiring and advancement of people with criminal records. Winner is now 2.5 years into her corporate job, working in Surface tablet sales to other businesses. Her latest fight is for full custody of her son, who's been with other family since she went to prison. Still, Winner says she is grateful for her second chances and knows there are many more people out there who need them too.
As formerly incarcerated, we tend to get beat down by society's stigmas and beliefs about us, and we tend to buy into those beliefs. I wasn't going to do that. I was going to show society that I am a worthy person, that I deserve to have an amazing job. I deserve to be a productive member of society. This whole process, I've had a lot of fear, and there were times where I almost gave up, but I'm so glad I didn't.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Amna Navaz in Vallejo, California.
Wow, very powerful. That's a very, 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 very powerful. But I'll let you jump in there and just kind of continue to go through that. But I have some questions. Very powerful stuff, Shelly. Well, you got to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, it's interesting how certain things happen in your life, and at the time when you're going through the storms, that you think that you wish you weren't going through that storm. But I'm so glad, and looking back, like, I'm so thankful that Microsoft did discriminate against me, because it gave me that chance to fight back. Now, there was always that fear that I might not win, but there was no way I was not going to challenge them and be left with what if for the rest of my life. So, but having to challenge them and fight for my job has now given me this platform to speak about this freely and to share my story with others, because had they just hired me, I wouldn't be sitting here sharing my story, because I would be in fear of getting fired. And so I'm super grateful for that struggle. I'm super grateful for that storm. I'm super grateful for Microsoft. I mean, although I had to, challenge them, at the end of the day, they gave me that second chance. And they have treated me just amazing. And going through that experience firsthand is really what created this passion inside of me to stand up and speak out against this discrimination, against the 70 million people who want to get back on their feet but can't find a job because no one will give them that second chance. Now I have the voice that I've always wanted to be able to speak out and say, no, you guys, this is wrong, and here's why. And so that's what led me to do my TED Talk. The title of my TED Talk is Why Companies Should Hire Formerly Incarcerated. I talk about the benefits of it, the pros. There's really no cons to it, but I just talk about the pros, what I bring to the table at Microsoft is they have a grateful, hardworking, loyal employee who goes above and beyond. Now imagine if just imagine how many companies are losing out on employees like that because they want to judge them for a mistake that they made because they didn't know any better. People don't know what they don't know. But you know what? When I learned a new way of life, I said, wow, I became empowered. I started making better decisions. And it led me to where I'm at today. Here and now, I've been at Microsoft for 5 years. I've had 4 promotions. I bought a home. I never in a million years would have thought I would have been able to buy a home, but here I am today, and my life has completely changed. And I knew it. I just knew that this company, this would be the type of job to really help elevate my life and take me to that next level. And And then, and now here I am, you know, PBS is doing a story on me. It's crazy, right? I would have never thought any of this would have ever been a possibility, you know, 6 years ago when I was sitting in jail.
Wow. I mean, very, very, very powerful stuff. I mean, it just gives me chills listening to the story, as we know so many of our incarcerated folks are impacted after they do make poor decisions and go to prison or jail. And just to hear your story, I do a lot of reentry work, and you know, it is always it's a proud moment when you see someone who's been through those challenges, you know, bust those doors open and do the things they do. I mean, like you said, do a PBS, a TED Talk. I mean, that's touching areas that sometimes community voices are not being heard, you know, and just to hear about the inclusion and diversity. And I'm a big person that we hear this equity and inclusion talk, and you know, it's still that barrier that we're not reaching. But just to see Microsoft take that step and some of the other corporations to start turning that curve, because when you look at 70 million folks who can't get into the employment realm, and you look at the criminal activity that's happening in our community, some of the things that we see in our community, that lack of access to make income, to take care of your family, provide, you know, people become desperate. And I mean, even in these times that we are in right now, with inflation being high, so many financial uncertainties, you know, people are making poor decisions, desperate decisions for survival. And to not have a country that says, hey, we are about second chances, just to know that it's really a lot of folks who not about the second chance, and just to hear your struggles of what you had to go through. And you know, just thank San Francisco for being able to have that leadership, right? That policy in place. And I always tell people, you know, people, I'm getting out of California, I'm going. But we are truly trendsetters in this country. And you know, some of these laws and things that we push, and people say, oh, the radical left in San Francisco, but these are the opportunities, you know, and it's how do we transform this country to being more open to different ideals that will impact our community. Is just, you know, the work that we have to continue to do. But again, your voice being highlighted and uplifted, I mean, it is just an honor to have you here as well. I mean, and you know, when I think about your story and I think about the community that we represent, serve, and to know that these stories are happening all over the place, 5, 10, 15 barriers, but to have you hop those hurdles and continue to push through. I mean, you know, if your face is not part of the the definition of what perseverance look like, I don't know, you know, because a lot of folks will give up. I mean, you know, so many people that we deal with who comes back into the community, you know, they give up. You know, so many doors they feel are being shut on them, and they just give up. But to hear you, you know, keep pushing through like that, and just to get to where you at, it's just amazing. I mean, remarkable story. So I'm just, if you want to jump in there, go ahead. It just, I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things that I learned while going through treatment, and this had never, it's funny. I mean, it's so simple, but it never dawned on me, but it taught me about fear. And it taught me that fear is a liar. It is always a liar. How many times in our lives have we stressed out about something happening? And how many times does it actually truly happen? Think about that, right? Maybe 5%, if that, you know, and we spend this time stressing and worrying, and it's all for naught, right? And although I, you know, when I got rejected, because I got the job offer and then they rescinded it, right? And I learned about the Fair Chance Ordinance, and you know, there was fear inside of me to challenge Microsoft, because it's like, okay, well, I'm going to challenge them and I'm just going to lose at the end of the day, you know, and that's what our brains tell us. Okay. Okay, well, you know, what if I challenge them and I get my job back, but now they're, you know, they're pissed because I fought them and I made them basically hire me, and they're going to treat me differently. And, but these are all valid fears, but these are the types of fears that keep you from being successful. Fear will only limit your success. And so when I learned how to overcome and challenge those fears, because you can't get rid of fear. It's just, it is what it is. It's a part of life. But I learned to dance with my fear. And I thought, and what I did was I would say, okay, I've got these thoughts in my head. I have this fear, and you have to recognize it, right? But then what you do is you challenge it, and you say, okay, what if I do this and I end up losing anyways? What a waste of my time. Well, at least I won't be left with what if for the rest of my life. At least I will have fought as far as I could. And if I still don't make it, then at least I know I did everything I could have in my power that I could have to try to get my job back. Well, what if you get your job back and and then they treat you differently? Well, that could happen. But, if they do treat me differently, I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I'm not going to worry about it now, and I'll kill them with kindness. Can't continue to be mean to somebody who's, just sweet as pie to you and humble, because this has all been a truly humbling experience for me. And I was, my heart, for me, it's like, if I get this job, I'm going to be so grateful and kind to everybody. And I don't even care. You can be as mean as you want to me. I'm going to be sweet as pie to you, because here I am, I'm working at Microsoft, and, these little people, these little haters, they ain't nothing.
That's right. That's right. I mean, that's so powerful. I mean, that you say that, because in life we all do challenging. I mean, you talk about humbleness, to go through prison, your background, and to go through this, and these are the type of folks who build that, to have that humility and that compassion and empathy for folks. And it is people like you that are so powerful, because you change that paradigm of the thinking of not only corporation, but people. And to be able to tell that story and say, hey, I've been there. And when you get in that opportunity, you find somebody else who that opportunity, I'm going to give you an opportunity. And it just keeps going on. And it really, changes the energy in organizations. I mean, it happens all the time. But I think one of the most important things that I was happy to hear in that PBS thing that you talked about was being honest on your application, fighting through that fear and just saying, hey, this is what it is, and being open. And I find it, a lot of these folks who get turned down or opportunities shut, they take these risks and they don't put anything, their background comes back up and they get, eliminated or terminated out of positions. And I mean, I just think, talking about that in that piece is really like just something that I wanted to echo out to the community, because I've been in those experiences and I know folks who have taken that risk. And I'm like, why you just didn't put on there the information? I mean, they have so many programs that they want to hire those folks, for different benefits for organizations as well. But, just getting that out there to the community, I think is just very, very important, because I think sometimes, especially our young Black males and Black males in our community, some of these folks, they run through challenges trying to get through these obstacles, and they just get bogged down, and they just like, I can get in there a short time, and they don't understand the systems. But, being honest is a very big part of it, especially when it comes to applying for employment. And just being open. I mean, I'm so happy for that guy who watched your TED Talk. I mean, that's very powerful stuff. And things like that happen. It's just like, how does it all, the intersections meet? It just happens. But it's a true testament to your spirit, your energy, and what you been through. I mean, very, very traumatic stuff. But to get there. But one of the questions I wanted to have, because I see this in our community, when we talk about our homes, especially in the Black and brown community, when we talk about some of the things that impact us, in your segment there, they talked about, he said, when he's talking about drugs and your father said, bring it home and we do it together. This is a thing that happens in our community a lot. And, a lot of these influences that happen, it starts right in our homes, and that's why I'm so big on our adults in the community. We talk about leadership, it starts right in our homes. And the bad decisions that we make come from sometimes, our dear close loved ones. How did it, at that time, I know it was a different time for you, but sitting back now to think and just see what's going on, how does that inspire you to just, really, talk about these issues when it comes to substance abuse and things of that nature?
Well, I think, it was just going through what I went through at Microsoft is what created this passion to speak out against discrimination. But speaking out against that discrimination that I went through also I had to talk about, why I went to prison. And so that was because of my addiction. And for me, I put in the work to change. Anybody can change. You just have to accept, you got to take accountability for your life and your actions. And once you do that and you have that desire to change, I don't care what you did, like, you can change. I'm living proof of that. And there's millions of others that, are much more successful than I am, that have turned their life around. And, and so here I was being judged based off of my past addiction, right? Because I got arrested for drugs because I was an addict, and but that's not who I was anymore. And so that really, not only going through that experience with being discriminated against because of my record, but then I wanted to speak out against that, but then it just kind of went hand in hand with, talking about that, then talking about my incarceration and talking about the changes that, happened in my life because I learned a new way of life. I never thought treatment would work. I honestly had no faith or hope in treatment. But let me tell you, it does. If you really, truly want to change and you go into treatment and whatever you put into life is what you will get out. And so when I went into treatment, I wanted to change so bad. I wanted to do it not just for myself, but more importantly for my son. And so, back to what I said, in the beginning, our stories have power. If I don't share my story, then how do I help others? How do we help others? People have to, people have to relate to us. We've got to share our stories.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And, that's why I'm always, when we talk about mental health, when we talk about these different topics that really impact our community, we have to have people vulnerable. And I really, really appreciate your vulnerability, your openness. And you're right. I think we need, on all areas, we need our community folks to come out and tell their stories. And, that's one thing about the sacred spiritual spaces. On Sunday, people will tell their testimony when they're going through things and it move people. But that's what these platforms are for. When you talk about TED Talks and different things, it's to inspire the people who may not want to open up and speak up, and through your leadership and what you're doing will help move people forward. And I agree 100%. It's the folks who have the courage to come out and talk about where they at. We live in a society now where social media only shows the great things. Everybody's living good. Everybody has the nice cars. Everybody has the families, but we're not talking about the pain and some of the things that we went through to get there. And I think that's where a lot of our young folks in the community are missing some of the struggles and some of the things that people went through to get to that course of where they at. When you only show the success, you miss out this whole page and this whole group of information and experiences that sometimes our community don't see. And, that's why it's so important to have you here to talk about this and be open. And there's so many other folks who come on and talk about their experiences when they're going through things, because this truly helps heal the community. Like here, we believe at both sides of the conversation, the healing process begins through this communication and hearing folks tell their stories. You just united and set a fire tonight with that information out there. There's so many people struggling with substance abuse. There are so many people in the process of giving up, hopeless. And when we hear these type of stories, it just uplifts the hearts, the minds, the souls of the community. And, just happy to have you here to talk about this very, very important stuff.
Well, I think a lot of, me being confident to, talk about this and share my story It's because I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me, because I know who I am. And when you get to that point in your life and you know who you are today and you know that your past doesn't define you, then you're like, who cares? Like, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to be vulnerable because I don't care about the haters. I care about the people that need to hear my story, that I'm going to help, you know. And if you want to judge me, that's on you. That's something you're struggling with, you know. You shouldn't be judging others. And
Right.
we all have struggles, you know what I mean? None of us are Jesus Christ.
Right. I love it. I always tell people, let me get all the dirt out now so you can't talk about nothing. Once you know about it, what else you're going to talk about? Now we have to talk about something that's going to move the conversation forward. So, yeah, very, very important stuff. And it's always haters. But again, you know, the important stuff is, like you said, the folks who you influence, the folks who are on that fence, you know, still deciding, do I make the right choice or the wrong choice? Those are the minds that we're trying to capture, because I believe when folks see this type of story that you are presenting to the community, your struggles, your testimony, the things you've been through,
Right.
somebody's going to be empowered. Somebody's going to be lifted. Somebody who may have wanted to give up tonight is like, hey, let me go out and figure out this information for myself. I didn't know that. I seen folks say it in the chat, you know, and this is why it's important to utilize social media and our platforms to help bring that awareness and education to the community. Because a lot of times we just think people know and they don't know. And that's what we're trying to do here, is just to continue to bring different folks on here on our Educational Thursday to do these PowerPoint presentations and educate community about some of these laws and some of the things that impact us that sometimes our community just don't get, you know, or just doesn't have access to it. So a lot of this equity talk is about bringing access and awareness and education to the community. And that's what we're going to be committed to continue to do, because it's very powerful stuff.
Yeah, I agree. You know, since I've been working at the company, one of my goals, and I didn't know how I was going to achieve this goal, but one of my goals was to, you know, bring awareness to this issue by sharing my story internally. And so I've been doing a lot of work internally. I've been working hard to change the culture of Microsoft from the inside out, and it has been phenomenal. I mean, I was on a call with all of Microsoft's Canadian team, including the president of their org was on my call, and they invited me on. They gave me a whole hour, me and Jason Ford, the guy in the PBS show, and I got to share my story with, you know, the folks at Microsoft in Canada. And I've shared on probably, I don't know, maybe 10 different internal calls with, you know, anywhere from 50 to, you know, a few hundred people. And here I am sharing my story, right? And I'm one of them. I'm a Microsoftian, you know? And to me, I knew that it was going to be crucial for me, in order to help change and shift the culture, to have access and opportunities to share my story internally. And boy, let me tell you, it's been amazing. I mean, on these calls, there's people that are crying, and the impact that the story is brought, and especially bringing Jason on, like, you know, and talking about what he did to help, you know, fight for me. And you know, what a great story about allyship, right? And that story alone is inspiring other people at Microsoft to say, you know what, I need to that, you know, if Jason is you know, courageous enough to stand up for this woman, and she's obviously been doing well. She's had, you know, 4 promotions since she started working here. Maybe this fear that we have about people who are formerly incarcerated, and what we've been taught, you know, what society has taught us, maybe this fear isn't really all that valid, you know. And so that's where the storytelling comes into play, is to help break that fear. And I also knew when I started that there's going to be a big weight on my shoulders to perform, you know, considering that I was the first formerly incarcerated person that they'd hired. You know, they didn't, you know, I mean, they only go back 7 years on your criminal record right? But I was the first one that actually had a criminal record within that 7-year time span. And so I remember that one of the HR ladies, when I ended up fighting them and winning, she let me know that they were not happy about this, having to hire me. And instead of getting mad or, offended, I was like, you know what? I totally get it. I understand why you feel this way, because people don't know what they don't know. Right. And so I said, but you know what? I am so, so grateful. And I'm going to work so hard, and I'm going to make you so happy that you chose to give me this second chance. And she kind of laughed. She thought, I was joking, but I was dead serious. And so she would, check in on me. I think every month she would call, because my managers told me. And every time she called to check in to see how I was doing, she was expecting me to fail, but every time she called, it was a praise report from my managers. I mean, they loved me. They loved me because I came to work. I was humble. I was grateful. I didn't complain. My coworkers over here complaining about this and that. I'm like, what are you complaining about, dude? You work for Microsoft. Like, seriously. You know how many people would die to work here?
Man, and that I mean, that's very, so very true, and just going through incarceration. And I tell people who have been incarcerated, the outlook is so different. The things that folks complain about in these companies is like, I was sitting in the cell for 24 hours, man. This is nothing. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, exactly.
So that grind is different. Right. Definitely. I mean, this is so powerful. I mean, I'm, just again, so grateful that you are here tonight. And, I just want to say, shout out to your Microsoft team and their HR and Jason. I mean, I got to get him on here because to change this, this narrative that you're talking about, when we talk about storytelling and what's going on, changing this narrative start with courageous folks like that. And you're right. It takes someone who has a vision, and that's leadership. You know what I mean? I always tell people, we're trying to define leadership, right? It's like people who demonstrate what's possible, and, I always tell people this, you can't teach leadership. I have all these people, I'm going to send this person to leadership. You don't teach it, right? It's either you have it or you don't, right? And it's a little bit of what's inside of us. And it seems like Jason has that to be courageous, to be able to take that risk. And again, sometimes when you take those type of risks, and it takes you to doing your part of the process. But look at the turnaround, the exposure. I mean, this is a great marketing campaign to just show what corporations can do when they be open and take the lead. There are so many issues that corporations are facing right now when we talking about inclusion and making that change. Right now in the NFL, they're dealing with it with Black coaches. And what a way to have Microsoft, a leader in technology, and a great leader of Jason, taking that type of risk, doing something different. I always tell people, the one way we're going to change this country is we all have to dare to be different. We have to be innovative. We have to get uncomfortable with the things that we know is comfortable. That lady in HR was probably just so comfortable with seeing people come in and say, this is not going to work. Right. And we just have to stay open. So, man, I mean, it's just phenomenal stuff. But we got to get Jason on here and highlight him because, again, it starts with people like that in our community who makes those changes, who make people believe things could be done. And it just starts with having that courage. But, I don't want to take too much time and hold you up. I know you've been here for a while. But at this time, if there's any folks you want to shout out, thank, or any final words you want to get out to community, please do now. But definitely shout out those folks and very powerful stuff before we close out tonight's segment.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on the show. I really, appreciate people who are willing, that are giving people a platform to share these types of stories, and, definitely is important work that you're doing. So I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you too. Continue to keep pushing through, doing the work, beating the concrete up. There's a lot of naysayers, but with your testimony, your powerful story, and your courage to be vulnerable, I know there's a lot more things and people who are going to be touched and inspired and impacted by the work you are doing. Continue to lift Microsoft up to the highest levels. So again, when those opportunity comes for other folks, we'll be able to get them access as well. I am so excited and just celebrating your success. And this is what true second chances look like. You know, on this show, I talk about it all the time, why I care so much about second chances. And some people just want to throw the key away with folks and say, oh, it's over. They're never going to change. Right. But I really believe if you're committed to the change process, and we know the change, you got to change people, places, things that we do, and the true change will happen. Have confidence in yourself, eliminate the fear of the unknown, and just begin to start walking. Things will change. That paradigm shift will happen. That positive energy will flow your way. Doors will open up. People will be knocking, and we're just hoping to see more success stories like you, Shelly, and we just continue to build this family of folks who've been incarcerated and, pushing forward to make change for other folks who have been incarcerated. So thank you again for joining tonight. With that being said, community, we're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap up tonight's segment. This Thursday, we're going to have another Educational Thursday presentation. We're going to have the City of Election Department coming on to talk about the special election that is coming up. Very, very important for community. We would like to get our community involved with the election process as well as our civic duties, because again, the real change happened here locally as well as it is nationally. So she's going to come on with some great information this Thursday. So hope you all be able to join us for that segment. Also, our next Sunday conversation will be happening on February the 20th with our Black Panther Party. They're going to be going over some historic stuff that is taking place and some of the things that they are doing. And we are just honored to have them to come back on this platform and talk about some of the things the Panther Party went through and some of the things historically that has impacted our community. So we are excited about that as well. Also, we are excited about our bowling event that is coming up, and we are looking forward for our community to come out and just have a day of enjoyment. This COVID, the things that's been going on in our community, tremendous loss of our family and loved ones. We just want a day for community to come together in peace and love and just enjoy the day and celebrate with no cost to the community, all with our community partners coming together, supporting this event. We're going to have this so community can just come out and enjoy their self. And to all of the community folks who want to continue to support us, please do reach out to us at both sides of the conversation. We love all of you who support us and get behind the vision and mission of what we're doing to impact our community. With that being said, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Be safe. We had an amazing time with Miss Shelly here tonight. Powerful story. If you tuned in late, go to our YouTube, watch this presentation over tonight. This was great, very impactful information, and we are just happy to have you here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you on our next segment this Thursday. Have a blessed evening, everyone.
Bye.